Hey guys, I'm super excited about this episode. I get to interview another one of my favorites from one of my favorite shows, Naked and Afraid. One of the most kind and patient guys I've ever seen on the show. Today, I'm interviewing the amazing Joe Ortlip. Let's get to it. All right, well, friends, I am so blown away, humbled right now. I get to interview this legend here, Joe Ortlip. Joe, thank you for hanging out with me. This is amazing.
It is truly my pleasure. I'm happy to be here.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I've interviewed Gabby, I've interviewed Kai, Wes, and now you. There's a reason I reached out for you. You're one of my favorites, and
Oh,
I'm telling you, the people I'm interviewing, they're my favorites, and you're just an amazing contestant. Is that what we call them? Contestant, survivalist? Either way, you've been
yeah.
amazing. So
Thank you. I truly appreciate that. Yeah,
thank
it all
you.
depends who you ask, really. It's like some people prefer cast, other people prefer survivalists.
Yeah.
Some even call us talent. So who knows?
Yes. Well, hey, I want to ask you, do you have a background in, survival techniques or?
Not the conventional sorts like a lot of people I've talked to. Um, so where I first got started was actually the Boy Scouts. Started pretty early on with my dad.
Mhm.
Had no interest in the outdoors whatsoever. It was miserable. I didn't like
Oh,
getting
okay.
sweaty and bug bitten and just it was terrible. But like realistically, it was just an excuse for me to get some one-on-one time with my dad.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the exchange for it. So I loved it.
Awesome.
Growing up now, it's now I get to spend time with my own kids doing it, and well, they don't enjoy it either. But you know,
Yeah.
it's in a cycle.
We all have our things that we love. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I was in the scouts for a while, and I was that kid that was like, oh, I'd rather just stay in a hotel or or be in my own room. I don't like this place made of wood with leaves falling in. So
It's crazy. I used to believe that, but just since being on the show specifically, when you're out there, you experience this form of like almost like you're so grounded and you become like this humble individual that you never knew, was even possible. You're so
wow.
thankful for everything. I mean,
Yeah.
even the simplest thing. I mean, like I'm surrounded, like I'm in my room right now. If I just want to turn on the light, I'm going to go flip a switch. If I want some clean water, there's a sink within walking distance. I don't got
Yeah.
to worry about boiling it, sourcing it. It's just so many things you never think about, like in your day to day, and you just take for granted.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's a great perspective to have. So I want to ask you, can you tell me about how you got on the show? What's the story there?
Okay, so well, generally speaking, I don't believe I'm portrayed so much on TV, more like having like any kind of wisecracks or any kind of big personality other than just being kind of humble. So this one, it's kind of silly to me, but I hopefully I don't lose many viewers for this one.
That's all
so,
good.
so I've always been a fan of Naked and Afraid. I love the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was really silly when I first heard about it, just the name and not actually watching the show. It's
Yeah.
like, it took me a little bit to warm up to it, but when I actually started watching it, it's just like blew my mind.
Yeah.
So it became a tradition in my house. So I'm sitting there with my wife. We were just watching the show. I don't even remember which episode it was. But we're looking at the TV. We're doing our cat calls, like oh, if I was there, I could have done this, or you should
Yeah.
have did this. Just yeah, the routine.
Yeah. Right.
So she turns to me, says, "All right, what? You think you can do any better?" Well, me being the smart aleck, I take my cell phone, I pick it up. I'm like, "Fine." I applied.
Oh my
A,
gosh.
a week later, I get a call from EJ Snyder. They were interested in interviewing me.
EJ called you?
Yes, it was originally for a show called First Man Out that he was reaching out for. And then when I told him about Naked and Afraid, well, casting got a hold of me shortly after. And then we did the PSR with EJ.
Oh, wow.
So it's just that was one of the coolest moments ever.
I'm telling
Like,
you.
I don't know how much like I'm allowed to give away for it,
Right. Yeah.
but behind the scenes type stuff, EJ has been one of the biggest influences that I've had.
Yeah.
Um, just I mean, from day one, I mean, just like he was the dude to watch. He was the first dude ever to film.
Hmm.
He's been one of the nicest people I've ever met, and
Wow.
just like every step of the way, he's always so full of like knowledge and like willingness to help everybody. So it's just anything you could possibly think of. It's like, well, what would you do to prepare for, an interview? What would you do to prepare for, let's say, your first challenge versus a 40, a 60, whatever? It's just like he's got a passion about the way he talks about stuff. It's just
Hmm.
like you get sucked into it, and it's like you can't help but be excited.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, he is
Oh,
the coolest dude ever.
oh, no doubt. Okay, so you get this phone call and you go tell your wife. How did that go down?
Well, she thought I was kidding at first. Um, I don't know. It's just like one of those things. Like, who am I? I'm just, your average Joe walking around. It's like, why would I get picked for anything like this? Why would I be interested in, doing something like this? Because at home, I mean, I'm outdoorsy, but I'm definitely not running around, like buck naked in the wilderness.
Yeah,
I mean, nobody would have ever thought that. But it was one of those rare opportunities because they always say, it's like the Everest of survival challenges. It's like the
mhm.
pinnacle. It's like if you can do this, you can do anything. So I'm thinking
Yeah,
to myself, all right, so there's roughly about 200 people or so in the world that have done this. There's a
yeah.
little more than 7 billion. Even attempting this makes you pretty darn extraordinary. So I'm just like,
Wow.
you know what? I can do this. So
Yeah,
I just got it in my head. It's like, you know what? I applied for it. They contacted me. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to hit the ground running. No matter what happens from this point out, it's
yeah.
just, yeah, it's already a win.
Oh my gosh. It just had to have been I'd love to be a fly on the wall when you told your wife that had to just be a crazy moment. That's
uh,
awesome.
you know, if her expression could speak, good Lord,
Yeah.
that was worth the most. It was somewhere between disbelief and just you're not going to do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, all right. So your first challenge, you're heading out there. Uh Tell me about the first 24 hours. I mean, I know you had to be going, I cannot believe this is happening, probably.
Okay, so first 24 hours. Okay, so before we actually filmed, this was like in a prime of like COVID season. It
Yeah.
had just gotten a name. Um, we had no idea what it was. So they had sequestered us actually to two different hotels. So we had no
Hmm.
idea, where the other person was, how many it was going to be, whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, like all the crew there, they were all wearing masks. So I didn't actually see anybody's face until after we wrapped up.
Oh yeah. Wow.
So that was kind of bizarre. Uh, so let's see. I think we started somewhere around 6 in the morning.
Hmm.
Uh, well, at least that's about when I was up. I don't think I slept much the night before. I was so darn
Oh, I'm
excited.
sure. I know, right?
Yeah, just got like a real modest breakfast, just like
Hmm.
a bagged lunch looking thing,
Hmm.
and then went out to location. Um, did the initial kind of like disrobing. I think we did that two or three different times.
Yeah.
Just like get different angles,
Hmm.
perspectives and stuff like that. Because they've only got like one camera guy there for that specific scene.
Yeah. Okay.
Now it's funny though, because a lot of people say like nudity kind of thing. That's always a topic.
Yeah.
So
Right.
how weird is it? Do you think about it? Was it whatever kind of stuff?
Yeah.
I give it about 30 seconds till it's like, you know what? There's so much other stuff to worry about right now. Just
Yeah.
let's just go. Um,
Absolutely.
but it was kind of cool. Like everybody was super professional. Didn't have to worry
Yeah.
about a thing.
Wow.
Uh, God, like it's crazy. Like I apologize. Like I'm trembling now. I'm just like, so excited
Oh.
to be talking about this.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm blown
Oh,
away.
dude.
I don't
Like
oh my gosh.
I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. Like if I could go out every couple of months, like that would be my like just dream job. Like it's
That is so cool.
ah man. Yeah.
Well,
It's like I
oh
just gotta like like I'm
yeah.
so excited right now.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah, go ahead.
okay. So
Yeah.
let me think. So after we do the disrobing thing,
Hmm.
we walk up maybe like 100 feet or so till we actually meet the person.
Yeah.
That was the most bizarre thing I've ever done.
I bet.
um, uh, I'm not even sure I have the words for that one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first off, I've never met anyone for the first time naked.
You're right. Oh,
That
oh, yeah, I'm
so,
sure.
I mean, sure, you got a lot of people like, oh yeah, when I was in college, I used to do. Yeah, no, that wasn't me.
Oh
I
no,
was
no.
part of a computer club. Our getting wild was we all had hot pockets and like Mountain Dew, and we'd have LAN parties and network together for EverQuest. you know,
Yeah. I love
yeah,
it.
So yeah, party scene was definitely not me. So that
Mhm.
was crazy. I think that
Yeah.
would be a good way to start it.
Yeah.
My partner was a very interesting individual. I
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, but okay, so you're now met her, and I've asked the other some of the other contestants is for you personally, how long was it before you started kind of settling down and feeling, the awkwardness going away?
Awkwardness that didn't take but a couple of minutes
Okay.
for me to actually settle down. Didn't happen.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
I am like 100% on this like adrenaline rush that just doesn't stop.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. Like I get something. Let's say yeah, most people are into like sports. Let's use that because it's the time of
Yeah.
year for like football. Like Eagles here, I'm right outside of Philly. They are
Okay.
absolutely on fire. People
Yeah.
want to talk about that. It's like, just you can see them, like the glow, like the excitement. It's like, yeah, I remember,
Yep.
whatever kind of moment. Well, that's how I feel about like going out there and doing this kind of stuff. It's like, this is
Hmm.
what I'm passionate about. I may not be the greatest at it. I've got plenty of flaws, but it's what brings me the most happiness. So
Yeah.
it's just like for those moments, I'm just so full of life. I just bursting out.
Wow. That's so
So no, I
awesome.
just I just don't calm down. Like my heart rate's usually I'm gonna guess probably in the 110s range when I'm out there, just because
Hmm.
I'm like so darn happy to be there.
Man, that is so cool. That's an interesting perspective. I haven't really heard anybody say yet, but I I want to just say this. You have I actually told my wife this today. I said, Joe in my book gets the award for the most kind and patient person, man or woman, that's ever been on the show. I mean, I've talked to Wes, Gabby, Kai. They're just incredibly awesome people. But you get the award for the most patient and kind. And we're certainly not here. I am not about slandering anybody or talking bad about it. That's not what I'm here to do. I don't do that. But you had some challenges on that first time
Indeed.
around. Did you feel yourself getting pushed to the limit there? Or
Uh,
you handled it so well.
so, as respectfully as I can try and paraphrase this,
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't believe that I have a limit. Now that sounds a little inflated, but let me explain. So, both of my parents, we're going back, got 15 years for my mom and over 20 now for my dad. Both were diagnosed with cancer, respectively.
Oh,
Mom had lymphoma, dad had leukemia.
my
Once they were
gosh.
both diagnosed, um, it was quick. But I got to be a caretaker for my mom. So I remember this, like having conversations with her towards the end. And it's like, it always amazed me when I was talking to him. Like to me, there's nothing scarier in my life than I could picture than cancer.
Yeah.
It's just, it makes me feel powerless, is the
Yeah.
best way I can try and describe it. But, my parents, like, as we were growing up, they were kind, they were very patient. It just, not, they weren't like saintly, but I mean, they were just decent and good people, you know?
Absolutely.
And through all like that they were going through, the radiation, the chemo, and just, they never lost touch with that. Like to the very end, they were just good, God loving people. They loved their
Wow.
family, they loved life, and they were trying to encourage us and give us hope that there was always going to be, things could always turn around, and they never
Hmm.
lost that hope.
Amazing.
So I look at it as like, if they can face that and not, be screaming at the world or angry, you know, who am I to lose my cool over a TV show? I mean, I'm not gonna, I don't want to downgrade that. I don't. I mean, the experience is amazing, but compared to cancer, there's
Yeah.
nothing in my mind that's more difficult than that.
Wow.
I mean, you talk about, freezing cold for some people, like crazy amount of bugs for others, like heat for others, you know, things will pass, you know, and
Yeah.
this is some powerful stuff. I've told some other people before they went out there, you know, you can tap out, you get to go home,
Yeah.
you'll have a warm meal, all the comforts you had before.
Yeah.
I looked at my parents. What would happen if they tap out?
Mm.
So for me, that's not an option because that is an outward statement saying whatever I'm going through out there is more difficult than what you did. And that's just unacceptable.
Wow.
So mentally, I don't believe I can't hit that limit.
Wow, that's man alive. It's so funny you say that because in the last year of my life, I I have taken on the motto to try to remember. You're just reminding me of everything about my life right now because I try my best, no matter what I'm going through. I always say there's always somebody with much bigger problems.
Absolutely.
Man, what a perspective you got. Thank you, man. Your
No
parents
problem.
just sounded like amazing people. And I look at you and I'm like, obviously they are because they're
Yeah,
they're just their their personalities, their view is just carrying on in you. Oh, that's amazing.
yeah. It's kind of. Pardon. I actually got kind of a neat story about that. So, before I first aired, one of the things they tried to focus on was my adoption story. They actually showed a little snippet of that, like in the early part of the episode. So I
Yeah.
was adopted, obviously.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember that.
my father was a veteran of the Korean War. He spent quite a bit of time over there.
Yeah.
So he kind of fell in love with the country, the people, the language, the culture. It's just he was all about it.
Mm-hmm.
My mother at the time, um, she could not physically have children.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some medical reason, so they chose to adopt.
Yeah,
Which for me, that's fantastic. So
absolutely.
so yeah, it was a no-brainer. He went directly to Catholic Social Services and wanted to adopt a Korean child, and bingo, I got
Here you
picked.
are. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
So fast forward to right after the episode aired. We did one of those follow-up things. I think it was like, "Where are they now?" kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So in there, I said I was going to start looking for my birth parents, to figure out like the other half of that story that I was always looking for.
Yeah, right.
Now, I loved my parents,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, like no
Of
doubt
course.
about it.
Yeah.
But a part of me always wanted to know. It's like, why was I given up? Why am I here? Why? Just a whole lot of why.
Yeah.
Well, about 3 weeks ago, I finally got that answer. Um,
You're
right
kidding.
about mid-April, a fan contacted me because she had seen my episode in Montana, and that she had seen my follow-up. So she found me on or not Instagram, Facebook.
Uh-huh.
Her name is Beth Baker. She is a social worker right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And she took on my case. She got my information, and kind of fast forward to, very recently, and I was in touch with the adoption agency in Korea, and yeah, I've been speaking to my mom almost every day since.
You are kidding me.
So I got my ending.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh, that is
and
so awesome.
that's all because a fan saw my episode. Yeah.
Wow. That is mind blowing. Now, have you been able to find out about your dad? I don't want to be too nosy here.
No,
Don't
no,
let
no,
me
no.
pry.
So my biological father is actually uh, how to put it, not interested in being in the picture.
Okay.
He
I'm
found out
sorry.
that no, 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 not at all. I don't even remember the guy. So long story short, as soon as he found out mom was pregnant, he denied everything and just tucked tail and ran. No interest, so whatever. Mom tried to hold on to me as long as she could, but just it was a very different time and culture from what I'm told.
Hmm.
Early 80s in Korea, like I, it's very different here than America, apparently.
Yeah.
Uh, so this seemed very dishonorable for her to try and raise a child on her own. She'd be shunned by her family, and there was a lot of stuff to
Oh,
that.
my
Um,
goodness.
Again, it's a very different culture.
Yeah.
So she made the choice. She was coerced into putting me up for adoption.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Okay.
she tried to keep in contact with us. I think it was 1999, if I remember correctly, that she had sent one of the last letters.
Hmm.
But around that time, Dad had first gotten sick. Um, I had no interest whatsoever in the contact situation just because of everything that was going
Yeah. Yeah.
on. Well, we shuffled around, a little bit, and some papers were lost, and it kind of went to the back of my mind. I didn't think about it anymore because my parents in front of me were the most important at that time.
Exactly. Yes.
Then come in 2008, she had tried to reach out again, but both of my parents at that time had been deceased, so she had
Hmm.
no contact information. So she never
Oh,
stopped looking for me, which is
yeah.
just heartbreaking to me.
Hmm.
But Yeah, I'm looking to hopefully go to Korea soon. Planning
Wow.
April, to meet her again. First time in about 40 years.
Oh my goodness. That's such an amazing story, man. Awesome. I hope everything works out and you get to meet her face to face. That would be amazing. Wow. Well, I want to ask you, can you tell me in your challenges you've done, the most challenging part or moment that you've faced so far?
Most challenging. Um, hmm, yes, trying to bite my tongue on Frozen. In the first 2 or 3 minutes, because right after we disrobed,
Hmm.
first off, I've never felt that kind of cold before.
Oh,
Now, now I'm here in Pennsylvania. I'm right outside of Valley Forge. Now we're known historically for having really cold winters.
uh-huh.
That's not the same as a Montana winter.
Oh
um,
my gosh.
like that wind was so cold, it physically hurt. Uh,
Oh,
I mean, I think it was 22 is what they told us, and then plus the wind chill was just, I don't even want to imagine that. But see, that
okay.
wasn't the worst part. Why I got so upset, like there was snow all over the ground.
Uh-huh.
Well, on the hilltop where we first got inserted, I didn't realize that the hill was covered in prickly pear.
Oh,
So as soon as I took my boot off and stepped down, I went flat foot right onto a pad of prickly pear cactus. It was buried under
oh,
the snow. So somewhere
oh,
between the pins and needles of hitting ice, and then you had the literal needles.
yeah.
Ugh. So
Oh,
that was pretty rough.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
Physically, that was the most challenging. Uh,
Hmm.
ugh.
That
Mentally,
sounds
though,
painful.
yeah, like on the mental side or
Mm,
emotional or whatever it just. And I'm gonna go back to Sam because this was really kind of where it all went.
mhm.
It was a big part of communication. Um,
Okay.
we both knew what we wanted,
Hmm.
but we could not find that happy medium.
Yeah.
And just that, I believe that's really what blew it apart ultimately. And just
Hmm.
so I've held on to that for a really long time. I feel like that was a failure on my behalf. It's like I always feel like there's something more I could have or should have done. I haven't
Hmm.
a clue what that would have been, but I feel like a big part of that, her failure was because of me.
Hmm. Well, it's hard. We watch the show and we're not there like you guys are, so we don't see the whole picture. But I've had people say, "Well, editing kind of tells a different story," but the story we get as a third party outside viewer really doesn't make it seem like it was on you. And like I say, I wasn't there, but I think the average viewer is going, "I don't think you were the problem, Joe."
No,
But
I've heard that plenty. Um,
yeah,
it's just, again, it's my own personal perception, and
right.
I think people are their own worst critics.
That's right.
It's just, again, I always go through my mind. It's like, what more could I have done? Like, could I have said this instead of this? Could I have done X, Y, Z, whatever?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, I held on to that for quite a while until I actually got the call for Frozen. And I'm thinking to myself, it's like, am I really this terrible of a partner? It's just, I believed a lot of what she took, what she said, and I took that to heart, and I
Oh,
couldn't let go of it.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
that kind of came and bit me in the rear end for Frozen.
Hmm.
Like I was so determined to prove her wrong and get that image out of my head.
Yes.
Like I really, really just I hit the ground running.
Yeah.
um, yeah, by day two, I was so gassed, and just like everything was finally catching up to me. It's like, ugh. Again on the ground. That was embarrassing. And
Yeah.
just, for this time, I actually have a legitimate excuse though, and just what, it was my own stupid fault, and I should have known better. Prior to this, I was drinking anywhere between 10, maybe 15 cups of coffee on any given day. That was my go-to. Didn't drink
Hmm.
water, just drank coffee.
Yeah.
Um, well, my caffeine levels were probably so elevated from what they're telling me. It's like I literally just I had an addiction drop out from under me, and I was going through withdrawal. So like the cold sweats, like the dizziness,
Oh,
the
yeah.
nausea.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's yeah, that was pretty embarrassing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that would be extremely tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you, do you got any interesting, I don't want to put you on the spot here. Do you have any interesting behind the scenes stories or anything that stands out to you?
behind the scenes. Well, I think Gabby and Kai would probably kill me if I told one story. So I
Oh,
I think maybe I should avoid that one. But okay, here's kind of a lighthearted one.
okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the scene back in my original Montana 21, where I first see the moose. Now,
Hmm.
they only show you a couple seconds out of that. That lasted about 2, maybe 3 minutes or so. Not long, but just it felt like an eternity to me.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Um, Now, I remember in the opening scene, you see me just get up and kind of walk off camera for a sec.
Yeah.
I'm just going to the bathroom. Like the crew's already gone for the day. It's like
Hmm.
nobody's there. As soon as I turn around, like just, I wish they would have kept this audio, and I'm so mad they didn't. So I turn around, I see this damn thing. I'm just like, oh Jesus. So it's immediately fight or flight type thing. Now, before we went in there, they said, they went over a couple different animals you might counter, and
Hmm.
moose being one of them. So you're either given two options: stand completely still and hope it goes away, or you can make yourself as big as possible and as loud and make noise and try and scare it off. Chances are that's not going to work. Um, and had it been any later in the season, that would have been in rut. So it would have probably been more aggressive than it was.
Hmm.
Uh, Me not thinking, I chose the latter of the two and just decided to hoot and holler and yell and, you know,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Uh, he did take a couple steps towards me, um, but the level of aggression and, quite frankly, profanity that I was screaming at the thing, I was very clear that, to this moose, he had no idea what kind of week I just had.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
uh, in some very colorful language, that moose got to get the full rundown of what I just went through. And he didn't seem interested
Oh my gosh.
and just thankfully just kind of, wandered off.
Yeah. The
So,
editors probably said that's too many beeps to put in, man.
yeah, yeah, it would have sounded like, one of them sirens going off at the end of the month. It's just, so
That's
bad.
awesome.
It's funny looking back at it now, but just at the
Yeah.
time, just I was terrified.
Oh,
Like I
I can imagine.
like aside from going to, like, let's say Cabela's or something, like I have never seen a moose before, and there you only
Hmm.
see them at a distance that are stuffed. That's not the same thing as, a 1,200 pound animal staring at you, taking walking around and stepping, and just like I had no idea how big they were.
Oh gosh, I
I mean,
can't imagine. I'd be terrified.
yeah, I got home, I started watching videos of different stuff like, moose and buffalo, and just like, yeah, they're out there beating up cars. It's like, what the heck was I thinking? Like,
Yeah.
no,
I should have
because I
chose the
wasn't.
first one.
Yeah, I'm glad they gave me a brown pelt, right?
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, see, now you've sparked my interest though about this story with Gabby and Kai, but I won't pry. Okay. Yeah. I guess there's some things that need to stay in the wilderness. What happens stays there, right? I mean, you
Well,
know it.
so it's not bad. It's just
Yeah.
embarrassing, I guess.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
This was like,
sure.
I'll tell you anyway. Okay, so
No.
so all right, so our little group, we called ourselves the Crow's Nest.
Hmm.
It was kind of just like a camaraderie kind of thing. We called it this because, obviously our nest was just kind of like the a nickname, I guess, for a little, whatever group community.
Yeah.
So, but the reference to crows was actually because in Montana, the area we were at was previously indigenous Crow people. That was their territory. So it was
Okay.
kind of like an homage to them.
Hmm.
So we were out one day. I wish they would have shown this again. Just we had so many lighthearted moments. And I don't think they wanted to make it appear on screen like we were having a good time.
Yeah.
It was difficult, but it's just there were so many laughs out there. It's just I don't think that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
So Kai and I were walking around one day. We were just out foraging, setting traps, and just doing our thing. Uh, I think that was the day Gabby was making the bedroll. I think,
Hmm.
but for whatever reason, she wasn't with us that day. So we're out on the opposite side of the lake. We're foraging around. We find a whole ton of watercress. We found some rose hips. It's just like, we were feeling pretty good. Kai went to go, grab some like traps and set and stuff for rabbits that we saw there. I was like, okay. So we got to talking since it was kind of warm. Well, not warm, but warmer, I guess, because we're out in the
Yeah.
wind. And she's like, wait a minute, a lot of these people out here, they have different communication things. One of the most popular things they do, it's like caca kind of thing and just yell it. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And, depending on how many times they do it, it means something different. Well, I was so incredibly embarrassed, like in front of like to do this in front of Kai. It's just like I made every sound but that. I mean, you would have thought I was like a blue jay having a seizure. It just like what? It didn't work, But she was so sweet through the whole thing. It's just like I do some random sound, and then she's like, no, 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 no. Well, in Australia they have different kind of calls. Have caca or like ka ka ka. Just going over different things. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute. All right, now I'm going to entertain myself. She's going to be so mad if she sees this. So when I saw after the third or so time that she just wait a minute, she's doing the example again. Here we go. So now I did it wrong. Just see, it's like so she says, no, 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 try this. It's like okay, and then it's like, all right, big finish. I'm going to be all confident, like, and that's why you're on the highlight reel, kind of thing. It's just like, so it's just little goofy moments like that, It's
Yeah.
just we had so much fun out there. We really did. And I know, I think they tried to play this as like the hardest XL ever attempted,
Hmm.
which I believe it was very challenging.
Yeah.
But there was so much of that human element I wish they would have showed. Just
Hmm.
we were so happy out there, and
Yeah.
I don't think that would have fit the narrative though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I can't, it was either Gabby or Kai said the same thing. There were a lot of laughs and just good times out there.
Yeah, I just they were just the greatest people I've ever met. You know,
Yeah.
Gabby I've seen a few times since.
Hmm.
Kai once at the finale. And just they are exactly who you see on TV.
Hmm.
Not just being skilled, just being very kind, but
Hmm.
just at their core, just genuinely good people. And
Yeah.
I could not have asked for a better partnership.
Oh,
I mean, just they were
absolutely.
extremely supportive and just so darn knowledgeable and just encouraging at all times. Like
Yeah.
just like there's not enough nice stuff I could possibly say about them. They're just good people.
Yeah. I believe that. I've met Gabby and Kai in person. They came to do an appearance about 30 minutes from my house back in August.
Okay,
And
cool.
I was at our wedding rehearsal, and so I was rushing to get there, but I did catch them about the last 30 minutes they were there. Picked up one of Kai's books and made some pictures, and they're just the nicest, down to earth people. I got to see some of their clothing from your challenge from Frozen. That was really cool, also. But yeah,
Definitely.
they just picked up. They're just great people all the way around.
Mm. Oh, absolutely. It was
Yeah.
kind of cool about clothing too, because just going into that, I thought that I had fairly good skills as far as clothing making. I've done shoes before, and just some really simple, like stuff like bags.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, throwing like a tunic over that's just a matter of cutting a hole and tying it. So I wasn't worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
But just when we got out there, like the amount of skill that Gabby brought to it, just like it blew my mind.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
if I remember correctly, I think she said like her mom was like big into like doing the seamstress kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So she taught her a lot of how to sew. And
Yeah.
just like I I couldn't hold a candle to her. She was just absolutely incredible.
She's amazing.
Yeah,
So I wanted to ask you kind of a side question.
sure.
If you're on a challenge, is there anything that you say, I would not eat this under any circumstances? It's on the I will not eat it list.
Me personally, no. Um, I believe anything out there, potentially, as long as you can identify it, properly, is a food source.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, I ran into it my first time. Uh, Sam would not eat crickets. Like we gutted them. They were perfectly safe. It's like
Yeah.
we roasted them. No parasite, worries at all. Would have
Mm-hmm.
been a decent pack of protein.
Yeah.
Wouldn't touch them.
Wouldn't do it.
Nope. Almost every day after that, I had crickets. Between that, we had oh geez, thistle. There were 5 or 6 different kind of wild berries out there. I
Mm-hmm.
just I felt like I was eating pretty well.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, that turned into a huge argument in itself.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, um, the scene with the raspberries that you actually see on the episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, what that argument was about, she did not like currants or some of the strawberries or I think it was huckleberries. Um, there were a couple other things she just didn't care for because they had like a bitter kind of taste.
Hmm.
Um, so she preferred the raspberries. So when I brought back raspberries, it turned into I was stealing her food because that was the only thing she was willing to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So to give a little context to that, what I said, yep, that's why I was stealing her food.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Hmm. Can't win for losing.
Yeah. But the
Oh,
cool thing though, once we did find all the raspberries out there, every day there, like after, boiled up the leaves, so I had tea for every single meal.
oh yeah.
So I
Nice.
just can't complain about that. Fresh mountain water with boiled raspberry leaves. This is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
I
also,
believe
this
it.
is kind of cool too. I didn't mention this. So
Oh.
since we left Frozen,
Hmm.
the last time you guys saw me, I was leaving in an ambulance. So from there, I got to go downtown to the ER.
Hmm.
They did they did their labs, they did their med checks, whatever they needed to do.
Hmm.
My levels were completely normal.
Good.
Um,
Okay.
I don't know. I can just I guess the network's just trying to be cautious.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, I get it. Our safety is their number one priority. I understand that.
Yes.
But my goodness, that was something really hard to swallow. It's
Oh,
just
I
being
bet.
told that there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
It's just that broke my heart.
I'm sure you look back and you go, man, God, come on.
Yeah, but no, it's like I got home. I saw my family doctor for a follow up. They got me with a cardiologist. I had 2 months of that stuff.
Hmm.
Kept a heart monitor on for 6 weeks. Yeah, completely clean bill of health.
Man.
So it's just I accept it now. Just back then
Yeah.
I was a little upset about it. It's just I couldn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
But now it's like I get it. There's liability. It's just
Right.
it's not. I'm going to use this phrase lightly. I'm saying it's not
Hmm.
a real scenario because I mean you have on staff people there, like medical teams in case something were to happen.
Yeah.
It's like if something legitimately were bad to happen, the network would be held liable, and it's just like they can't be doing that. So I
Hmm.
get it.
Yeah. It's not hard to swallow, though.
Oh,
I mean, it's
yeah,
not easy to swallow. That's what I should say.
yeah,
I
yeah. So I can only hope I get to do it again. Uh,
hope
but
so.
but since then, though, I've completely given up sugar and caffeine. So
Wow.
that has, yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle because my God, I love cappuccino. It's just like the smell of like coffee is just like,
That's torturous.
ah. But so in the event anything else, if I were to ever go out again, I would not have to deal with any kind of withdrawal symptoms.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it's just lesson learned.
Yeah. Lesson learned, man.
Suppose if I could give a quick shout just to the fans in general, whoever's watching this,
Yeah.
um, I want you guys to know, you guys gave me the happy ending I was always looking for. Somebody reached out after seeing my episode, and now I've got my mom in my life again. I can't think of a greater reward. It was all just because, you know, I, I thought I could do something, that nobody else that I've ever met before, has ever done. I was just like, you know what, I was going to take a chance and just step out of that comfort zone type thing,
Yes.
and just, it was that one moment. It's like, all right, I can do this. And just, it's been a nonstop blessing ever since.
Wow.
And just so many people, like the message that I've been carrying out to the world, it's just, people are still worth, just people, there are a lot of good people in the world, and that's
Yes.
worth, something. You just can't go around thinking like I'm only going to have my own self-interest in mind,
Mhm.
because just if that one fan, if Beth would have thought it's like that's a cool episode, but what, that was enough of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. It's just there's a lot of good left in this world.
That's right.
It just I really believe, if we can just step out of our comfort zone, just it could just be as simple as, what, I'm going to hold the door for somebody today. It doesn't have to be monumental,
That's
but,
right.
just the smallest gestures can make the biggest difference to people.
Yes. And you've
Yeah,
nailed it. You've absolutely nailed it. I hope people take what you're saying and put it into practice because we just never know how we're going to affect somebody. It recently, and this is not to, bring any kind of uh, good light to myself, but I sent somebody a birthday card recently, and it was so funny. I saw him later, and he just stopped me and said, "That was the nicest birthday card I've ever gotten." And I went, it was a birthday card, but apparently something so simple was huge to him. And I tell people that all the time. We just never know what it would do just to smile at somebody or hold the door for them. It's so
Yeah,
simple, and we just don't know what we're going to do.
yeah, and it makes all the difference too. Just
Yeah,
you know, take kindness and pay it forward.
that's right. That's right.
Hmm.
Well, I wanted to ask you, okay, and if you could set up your own challenge, you
Oh
you
no.
could choose the place and the people you would be with. Can I ask you where it would be and who it would be?
Oh, that all depends. Oh, geez.
I know
Every
there are a lot of
location.
great people to pick from, so I get that.
So yes, there's an awesome roster out there of people, but people
Mhm.
that I've actually had a connection with lately. Um, I think that's what I would pick ahead of time. Like Tara Short, I'll give you an example right there.
Mhm.
Great individual. Backstory was just emotionally, it's like a roller coaster.
Mhm.
But just the amount of mental fortitude that she's went through, it's just we connected really quickly. Someone I still speak to fairly regularly.
Mhm.
Sarah Bartel's another one. Just
Amazing. Yes.
uh, gosh, I mean, like she lives and breathes this stuff.
Yeah.
She's completely off grid, back home.
Hmm.
Just she does a homesteader thing. Just
Yeah.
yeah, just overall, just incredible person. We've met quite a few times. Just like before Frozen as well. We've had a couple of different reunions and stuff we met at, and just a really good person. I click with really well.
Yeah.
Um, Matt Garland's another one. He is an awesome dude.
Hmm.
He's been on twice now, I believe. Yeah, one of the fan challenges, then he came back for a 21. And
Yeah.
just really, really cool dude. We met down in this was Florida last time I saw him, Florida or Tennessee.
Hmm.
But anyhow, so we actually have done some different teaching stuff together.
Great. That's awesome.
So it's just like it's having that familiarity with people. It's like if you go into that ahead of time, like you're already one step ahead of the game.
Hmm.
It's like I don't. Most of the time, I believe they don't want that to happen. It's like they want that human element, it's like surprise kind of thing. Like you might know of someone, but like having that close interaction, it's probably not something you're going to see on screen unless they've been
Yeah.
partnered for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Um, just again, I think it adds a little more to the suspense and the drama if you've never met the person.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it
Uh,
does. I'm
but I mean,
sure.
personally, it's like having that emotional connection, knowing right away, like day one, you can trust someone. I mean,
Hmm.
that's invaluable.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So as far as a place goes,
Yeah.
I'm a little partial to the cold. It's just it's familiar, I guess.
Okay.
Um, so I got to see an episode a couple of years ago. Actually, a friend of mine, Jen Taylor, was there. Oh, and then EJ as well in Bulgaria.
Yeah.
It's one of the colder places I've ever seen filmed. And it looks very similar to like the Pennsylvania kind of like fauna and stuff around. So it's like what, or flora and fauna, whatever. So
Yeah.
I really think that would be a more familiar kind of place. So it's just
Hmm.
like if I were to be given something like that, like I would jump at the like anything to get
Wow.
me back out there and just do this
Yeah.
again. I don't feel like I've hit my wall. And some of the people I'm sure it's like oh he had a chance move on to the next person. That's totally fair. But if I can just get one more, I know I haven't reached my limit. So I mean 40 was always my goal that I want to see what it's like. But then they
Yeah.
came out with 60. It's like oh, man, I don't know. The sky's the limit. I just need the opportunity.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, are you open to anything else? But you've made that very clear. So,
No, definitely. I think I'm kind of partial to the Alones though. So if they ever decide to film any of those again, I think that would be a lot of fun.
wow, really? Okay.
Well, because I right after my 21, I got a lot of flack saying I was carried for the first half. And just as someone with a lot of pride and like well, self-worth kind of feeling like that
Hmm.
image,
Yeah.
it's just like that's really how I'm perceived. You know, I would love to do an alone just to be like, what, I did this. Good or bad, I'm responsible for my own choices, and
Hmm.
so I think that would probably settle a lot of disputes to be able to get out there.
Yeah.
But who knows? I mean, I don't know if they're ever going to film those again.
Yeah. Well, I know I would love to see you more, see you again. I just think it's like I said, I think you're just one of the best contestants they've had.
Mm,
Survivalists, cast members, talent, whatever. You're one of
that's
the
all
best
right.
they've had. You really are. And I know I'm not the only one
Mm,
that would love to see more of you. So I
I
hope that
truly appreciate
happens.
that. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Once again, I want to thank Joe for hanging out with me on this episode. And listen, I'm serious, friends. I want to see Joe on another episode, and he wants to do another challenge. Let's hit him up. Let's let him know that we want to see more of Joe. Plus, I think he has an incredible story to tell about meeting his birth mom. So let's let him know. Let's put Joe on another episode, another challenge. But in the meantime, I want to wish for you and all of your family and friends peace and blessings, and I'll see you soon.